Also joining us for more in-depth analysis on this is for the elections is the former chairman, the Nigeria Union of Journalists at the FCT chapter. That's Emmanuel Ogbeche, who joined us earlier on the special coverage. Now, Mr. Emmanuel, we've asked you this before, but for the sake of our viewers, how would you assess the conduct of the election so far? Polling elections have now closed, collation have now begun, sorting is on their way. Your thoughts so far?
Well, the elections have been peaceful, oddly, and there has been a reference point here in the FCT, except for one or two skirmishes we've heard of in Kuje, I think, where it was alleged that an individual snatched a ballot box. I wonder what he wants to do with it. But generally in Abuja, the people are orderly and civility does prevail. One hopes that there'll be takeaways, there'll be lessons learned from these elections for the Electoral Commission to improve as we go to other off-cycle elections. But by and large, it's been peaceful. One hopes that the collation wouldn't become a matter for debate or for controversy.
There were allegations of vote buying in some polling units. In fact, one of our correspondents was saying that he did witness vote buying happening and that some police officers also saw that, but they did nothing until an EFCC member came in and stepped in and then arrested one of the solicitors of such an act. Another was a case where we did capture on camera sort of a scuffle going on behind the building there of some persons, which seems to be exchange of money was going on or some scuffle, right? So we know there were allegations of vote buying and that was captured on camera. So what are your thoughts regarding this and the proactiveness of the Nigerian police in particular in cases of what is clearly a crime?
Well, vote buying seems to have become a cancer, and it's thriving because from past elections, there have not been any effort by INEC, ICPC, EFCC to prosecute those that were responsible. You know, sometimes the back carriers for those that are responsible are highly placed, so prosecution becomes a problem. You know, and just this morning, I'm very much aware that the ICPC and EFCC deployed their operatives, you know, to polling units to ensure that this menace is coped and checked. For those that have been arrested, our expectation is that these fellows will be arraigned, and those that are responsible for aiding them, for providing the cash for vote buying, will also be arraigned alongside those that have been arrested. Nigerians ought to know by now that you can't mortgage your future, those of your children, for posterity, just for 5,000 naira, sometimes less than that. Last night, reliably, people gathered in the home of a prominent politician to collect 3,000 naira, you know, with their what they call PVCs, you know, numbers being taken. It's unfortunate. The security agencies, especially the anti-graft agencies, must wake up to their responsibility and ensure that those responsible for this cancer are brought to book.
You said responsible, the security agents, but one of the comments that I think it was Edom Joseph, who was our correspondent at the time and giving us just live reportage, he said that the police saw it and did absolutely nothing until the EFCC stepped in. But the law binds them to arrest, to make those arrests and prosecutions, and the INEC themselves, in this case, their polling unit officers, the PU officers, are supposed to also flag those people, identify them, and provide adequate evidence, right, for prosecution. When all of this triage is not happening in this case, one begs to ask the question as to why this cancer continues to persist and erode the system itself, when we've not seen actively all these individuals doing their part, and we have not seen an example made of in public space where it now puts fear into the minds of Nigerians not to. Why have we not gotten to that point?
Well, you've made the point. When you do not, when there are no consequences for crime, you embolden others, that are waiting in the wings. And it is a shame if actually has been reported that the police stood by and saw individuals, buying votes, paying for votes, and other security agencies did not act until the FCT stepped in. It's an indictment on the police, and it's a collective indictment on all of us. The civil society have their work cut out. We must, escalate the sensitization and advocacy to the populace, to would-be voters, that you do not need this pittance because it undermines governance, it undermines growth and development in the long run. Because if you sell your vote today, the individual that gets into office for the reason that he bought your vote is going to recoup his investment. No matter how terrible this investment is, he will ensure he recoups his investment, that the health center down the line, the primary health care center that should be built is not built. The road that should be paved will not be paved. And it is a challenge to our security agencies to do right by this country. When there is a crime, it is your duty to arrest. After arrest, it is also incumbent on them to ensure that these individuals are taken to court. But we haven't seen it. Since 2015, that vote buying became rampant. Up till now, not one individual has been arraigned and has been prosecuted successfully. And until we see that, it will continue to try, unfortunately so.
All right. Mr. Emmanuel, I must say thank you for joining us. Mr. Emmanuel Ogbeche there, the former chairman of the National Union of Journalists in the FCT.